Oh, hi there. What was I doing? I was looking for fraud. Well, you don't have to have binoculars to find fraud. It will find you. Welcome to another Fraud Watch Friday podcast, this one for May 2024. I'm Jon Wurzer, and I'm your AARP Fraud Watch volunteer. Before we get started, let me remind you, you can find more information on things I'll talk about today and a host of other fraud and scam issues at aarp.org/fraud, Fraud Watch, or Fraud Watch Network, or by calling the AARP Fraud Helpline at 877-908-3360. So what are we going to talk about today? I was going to talk about imposter scams. I even bought this cool Sherlock Holmes hat, and I was going to masquerade as Sherlock Holmes. But then I realized, first of all, fraud's not really that funny. And second of all, almost all fraud that you run into has some imposter element to it. So I just got back from the East Coast where I spent 2 weeks with two of my sisters. And one night we were sitting around talking and fraud came up. And they shared some recent fraud experiences of their own or things that happened to their family. And I thought I'd share those. And then because in the last 2 weeks I've had several things happen to me, I thought I'd share those as well, just so you get a sense of how common fraud is in this day and age. My younger sister was telling me that when her daughter was getting ready to graduate from high school, it was the beginning of the senior year, and her husband was home alone, and he got a phone call, and they said, "Is this Mr. So-and-so?" And he said, "This is Mr. So-and-so." And they said, "Well, your wife ordered an SAT study course, and we can't deliver it because there's a problem with your credit card information." And my brother-in-law, not wanting to get in trouble with his wife, volunteered the correct credit card information. And then the next day they found they had several $1,000s of unwanted credit card charges. So the lesson there is get a number, tell them you'll call them back, check with your spouse. Also, my other sister was telling me her daughter, my niece, who was in grad school in St. Louis, she was working part-time for a nonprofit organization. I won't give the name of the nonprofit organization, but she got she got an email from her boss at home at about 6:30 at night one night, and the boss said, "We have guests coming into town for a presentation tomorrow, and I am stuck out of town, and I need you to buy a Visa gift card and give me the numbers so that I can give them to the guests so they can get their rental car," and blah, 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 blah. And my niece, not knowing any better, she said, "Okay, I'll do that, and you'll pay me back, and that'll be fine." And then the next day found out her boss wasn't out of town at all, and that the email server at the nonprofit she was working for had been hacked, and someone was sending out emails pretending to be other people. The key lesson there, and if you leave this podcast remembering nothing except the Sherlock Holmes hat, I hope you remember more, but remember this: anytime someone asks you to pay for something by buying a gift card, or anytime somebody asks you to buy a gift card, don't buy it. Only buy a gift card if it's your idea. So that's a good thing to remember as well. Another one that came up was my younger sister's father-in-law. He was using a tech support guy. He swore by this tech support guy. "Oh, Jim has helped me out of so many jams. He did blah, 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 blah." And my sister and her husband kept trying to say, "This might be a scam. This might be a scam." So they called me, and I researched on the internet all I could. And the only address I could find for this company showed on the Google map thing, it showed it was an empty parking lot in Indiana. And they went back to him, and still he said, "Well, I'm not dropping this guy. He helps me out." Well, last fall, her father-in-law passed away, sadly, and my sister was asked to help her mother-in-law get her finances in order. And she discovered that over the last 3 years, her father-in-law had paid this guy over $10,000 to solve his computer issues. So people masquerading as tech support aren't always tech support. Watch out for that. Just a couple things that have happened to me recently. On my way back from the airport last week, I got a phone call in my car, and I hit the button, and because my car is kind of old, it didn't say unknown caller or anything, it just rings. So I hit the button and it comes through my car speakers and it says, "This is Verizon Wireless." And I'm like, okay, that sounds good. And they said, "We're calling to confirm that you need 2 new numbers added to your Verizon Wireless account." I thought, that's odd. I wonder if my wife is getting a cell phone for her 97-year-old mom that we take care of. And then it went on, and I realized this isn't even a real person I'm talking to. This is a computer, and they wanted me to press 3 to continue. So I hung up. I called my wife. She said, no, we will never teach my mother how to use a cell phone. So how could you almost fall for that? I said, Also, I got a call the other night on our home phone that I only answered because I was afraid my mother-in-law would get out of bed and go running across the room to pick it up. And they said, "This is Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas. Is this Jon Wurzer?" And I said, "Yes, this is Jon Wurzer." And they asked a couple more questions, and I was answering. And then I realized their questions weren't ever following up on the answers I gave, and realized I wasn't talking to a real person at all. I was talking to a computer, and they were leading me down a bad road. And then I hung up the phone. I looked at my wife, and she gave me the dirtiest look in the world. And she said, "You know what you just did?" And I said, "I don't. What did I just do?" She said, "You just did that thing you tell people never to do. You said yes to somebody on the phone that you didn't know who you were talking to." That happened to me about 15 years ago. I got subscribed to a bunch of magazines, and when I asked for proof I subscribed, they played a phone recording of me saying yes. It was nasty. So don't do that. Don't pick up the phone if you don't know who it is. I've also been getting a barrage of text messages. I would say 3-4 a week now, saying things like, "Long time no see," or "Haven't talked to you in a while. How's it going?" And "We haven't talked since Baltimore. Give me a call." Or "Emily said you could help me record some music." These are all from people I didn't even know. Some of them, I used to live in Baltimore. I do help people record music. I did not engage. So it can happen to anybody. You don't need binoculars to find fraud. Fraud will come to you. So how do you protect yourself? Well, here's some simple things you can do to make your life a little easier and a little more fraud avoidant, if that's even a word. Phone settings on your cell phone. I found out this week when doing some research that both iPhones and Androids, if you Google, "How can I send all calls to voicemail from people who aren't in my contact list?" very simple instructions come up. So put everybody you want to get phone calls from in your contact list, then flick that setting. It won't block all the calls, but it will send them to voicemail, so you won't accidentally engage with somebody like Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas. And you can better screen your calls and avoid talking to a scammer. You can't do the same thing for texts. So, your best way to prevent getting scammed by a text, there's some real simple rules. Don't engage with anybody if you don't know who the text came from. Don't click on any links in texts if you can avoid it. Don't click on videos that people send you or pictures unless you are 100% sure that came from a person you know. If you get a video or a link or a text from someone you know, but it seems just out of character, like them saying, "I didn't know you wrote this Folgers Coffee song," don't click on it. Call that person. You probably haven't talked to them in a while, and say, "Hey, did you send me this?" And more than likely they will say, "No, I've been hacked." It's happened many, many times. Happens often with instant messaging for social media accounts. Social media accounts seem to get hacked more often than anything else. And a lot of that reason I believe, and I've read some articles believe this, is because people keep taking those stupid tests and quizzes on social media and giving away information that can help scammers get through their password security questions, like what was your first car, what city were you born in, what's your mother's maiden name, all that kind of stuff. Don't take the quizzes. Go buy a book at the drugstore of fun quizzes to take. It's a lot safer. And rule number one, if you don't get anything else out of this podcast, if anybody asks you to pay for something by buying a gift card, don't do it. Alarms should go off. Your fire alarm at your house should go off, and the cops should come, because it's a scam. No one legitimately does that. Also, if you're asked to pay for something with cryptocurrency by going to a crypto ATM, that's a new favorite way for scammers to get your money untraceable. And wire transfers. If you're involved in a deal that requires legitimately a wire transfer, perhaps a real estate deal, and you think you're all set up to go, and in the 11th hour, all of a sudden you get a text or an email or something that says, oh, the wire transfer instructions have changed. Don't trust it. That's another common scammer tactic. They will hack a company's email, a real estate company, a title company, a lawyer, or whatever. And at the very last minute, before your deal is going through, you'll get an email that you think is, or a text you think is from someone you're dealing with, and they want to change the wire transfer instructions. Call somebody, talk to them in person, or talk to them face to face if you can. It's probably a scam. Other easy things that I always tell people is protect your financial information. Don't carry your Social Security card, your Medicare card in your wallet. Don't carry your debit card in your wallet unless you plan on using it that day. There's a great article on the AARP website if you search for 10 things not to keep in your wallet, and you'd be amazed that you're probably carrying 7 or 8 of them, and you probably really don't need to be. So watch out for that. Check your credit report at least 2 or 3 times a year. I think you get 1 free per year or 2 free per year. And there's 3 different credit agencies you can do it for. You can also find information on how to do that on the AARP.org website. And freeze your credit. If you're not actively trying to be approved for credit increases or new credit cards or loans, freeze your credit. You can unfreeze it at any time. Develop a refusal script. If you're kind of a wimp like me and somebody's on the phone and they seem like a nice person, or they're at your door, but you really want to hang up or you really want to get rid of them, have just, what works for me is, I really don't have time for this today. I'd rather you not come back or call me back. Sorry. And then just shut the door or hang up. Because some people just, they know they might be being scammed, but they don't want to be rude. Monitor your bills and your assets. It's okay to use auto pay to pay your bills, but it's not okay to just go weeks and weeks at a time without even seeing what you're paying for. So set a reminder at least once a week. Go look at all the things that have been charged to your bank account or your charge card. And don't put checks in the mail and let them sit in your mailbox, and don't let your own mail sit in your mailbox. If you're one of those people that's not home a lot, you might even consider getting a P.O. box. There's also a service with the post office. You can look up online how to get an email every day that shows what's going to be in your mail, so that if you have something coming in, like a check or a very important legal document or something, God forbid, that might have your Social Security number on it, you'll know it's coming, and you can make sure there's somebody there to pick it up the minute it's put in your mailbox. All of those things said, you might still fall victim to a scam or fraud. And this conversation I had with my sisters when I was visiting, after it got all done, I said, so how many of these did you report? And they said, oh, we didn't report it. Once we got it straightened out, we just didn't want to mess with it anymore. So even though we have data showing that billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars a year are being lost to fraud and scams, we know that's only a fraction. So if it happens to you, report it. You can report it to the FBI by going to a website called ic3.gov. That's IC3. Or AARP by calling the AARP Fraud Watch Helpline. That said, let me remind everybody, we're always looking for more people to fight fraud, and we're looking for more Fraud Watch volunteers. So if you'd like to join us in our efforts to stamp out scams and fraud, you can contact us by email at ksaarp.org or by phone at 866-448-3619. And tell them, I think I could do a way better job than John at these podcasts, so let me join. Anyhow, I need to get back to this. Always remember, because I need to spot a scam, if you can spot a scam, you can stop one. Have a great month, everyone.